The Titans have signed safety Jamal Adams. Is this the big move at safety that Ran Carthon has been hinting about for months now? We are going to break down what he brings to the Titans defense, his strengths, his weaknesses, positives, and concerns. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it.
I post videos to tell you about significance, but rather than me doing a video saying why the Jamal Adams signing is significant to the Tennessee Titans, let's ask Jamal Adams why the signing of Jamal Adams is significant.
Leadership, swagger, energy.
Believe that.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know that was Mike Keith introducing Jamal Adams to Titans fans. I want to start here, Justin, because we're going to get into the player, the concerns, the strengths, all of that in a second. But I want to talk about the weirdness of this reporting. Like, this Teron Davenport on Thursday morning tweets, the Titans are signing Jamal Adams. There has been no buzz, no connection, no rumor, nothing from the national guys about Jamal Adams meeting with the Titans, nothing out there, right? And then like 2 minutes later, Jim Wyatt is tweeting the official announcement. The Titans team account is tweeting the official announcement, and Mike Keith is already like in studio recording presumably an interview or a podcast with Jamal Adams. Like, this is bizarre to me, and I think we can talk about the contract in a sec. To me, it hints that it's a very low contract, but overall, the bizarreness of this reporting is just, you don't see this very often.
Yeah, as someone who, is in that industry, so to speak, and breaks news, it was definitely weird, right? Like, you get the impression, obviously Adams was already in the building, right? Like, whether that was through a visit, taking a physical, whatever. My guess is someone tipped TD off to that. Hey, by the way, Jamal Adams is in the building signing a deal right now, because how rare does someone break something, quote unquote, and then 2 minutes later, the team is posting it on social, and then the player is there with a video. Like, very, very strange process indeed, but that's neither here nor there. You and I have been expecting a move to happen at safety for months now. It's obvious why. I'll kind of breeze through why we expected it to happen, because if you're watching this, you probably know why. Yeah. Well, the Titans had 3 players on the roster last year that played significant snaps for them at the position who are no longer there. And yes, I count Kevin Byard in that because he played a lot of snaps for them before they traded him. Right? So Kevin Byard, Terrell Edmonds, Kayvon Wallace, none of them are no longer on the roster. Despite, what did they play? Like 1,000 snaps combined last year? Something along those lines. That's a lot of plays that need replacing. Going to this offseason, no safety signed in the first or second wave of free agency, nor did they draft one, because technically James Williams isn't a safety. Their 7th round pick who played safety in college is making the transition to linebacker. So to recap, they lost 1,000 snaps at safety. They didn't sign one in the first or second wave of free agency, nor did they draft one. Now, they were loosely linked, as you'll remember, to Marcus May. He took a visit to Nashville. He ends up signing with the Miami Dolphins. They were also linked to Justin Simmons, who is still available, who you and I, spoiler alert, probably preferred they would have signed here.
Probably.
Still available, presumably due to a high asking price. We don't know. But the move is finally made on Thursday morning, one that we knew would eventually come at safety. But it is a bit of a surprise, yes and no. It's Jamal Adams. The reason I say yes and no, yes, because as we covered, nothing out there linking them to him earlier this offseason, earlier today, earlier this week, right? Yeah. Let alone why I say it's not so much a surprise. Obvious familiarity here with defensive coordinator Dennard Wilson. You and I will get to that in a second. In fact, as you know, I'm over at Titan Size now, overseeing that site. We had an article published a week ago. I got to give Lomas credit where it's due. He wrote an article a week ago saying the Titans need to bring in Jamal Adams, and here's why. And then it happened, regardless of what you think, here it happened 6-7 days later. Yeah. I want to get into the familiarity with Dennard Wilson, why it's not a surprise, but I'll throw it back to you first.
Yeah, so let's start with the contract talk. Before I do, real quick, I want to remind everyone this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Sinkers Beverages is the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to sinkersbeverages.com or check out the link in this podcast description, you can join the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. So check out sinkersbeverages.com. And if you're tuning into this channel for the first time, we really appreciate it. Welcome aboard. Make sure you subscribe to the Music City Audible channel. Tons of Tennessee Titans content every week. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. All right, so yes, it is a 1-year contract. We don't know the money details yet. Of course, our emergency podcasts are taped as soon as we can get on the mics. We haven't waited around for that information, but we do know, thanks to Teron Davenport's reporting, that it is a 1-year deal. And my guess, again, alluding to everything I talked about earlier with the weirdness around this reporting, typically the agent of the player that is signing a contract anywhere in the league will report the numbers to one of the big guys, Rappaport, Schefter, or even a local guy to break it. But usually the agent wants to get those numbers out right away. They usually go with the full value of the contract, not like the true guaranteed amount or whatever, just to beef it up, to make them seem like better agents, essentially, to make their signings big and public and like, look how much money we got for this guy. The fact that nobody has tweeted out how much money it was, or even that there was a connection between the Titans and Jamal Adams, makes me think it's a very cheap contract. We know it's a 1-year deal. I'm just totally guessing here. This is pure speculation. I would guess it's in the 1 year, $2.5–3 million range, because if it was much higher than that, somebody's bragging about it. Somebody's like, look, we got Jamal Adams, who basically nobody wanted this offseason, who Seahawks fans have grown to hate and wanted him cut from their team. Seahawks eventually do cut him because he was still on what was at the time the largest safety contract ever signed in NFL history when he got to Seattle. So the fact that nobody's reported that it's a big deal for him, or even like a 1 year, $8 million or $6 million, it's like, it's probably not even that high. Again, we don't know the details, but I would guess it's like close to vet minimum here for a former All-Pro. Not vet minimum, but like the minimum that you'd get. Again, $2.5–3 million.
I'm going to guess $3 to $5 million, somewhere in that range. And it's worth noting, building on your point, Adam Schefter, who was late to reporting it, but did eventually report it, he name dropped the agent. Yeah. That tells me he got it from the agent and still didn't report the numbers. Right. So that's building on your point. So I agree, it's probably a low dollar amount. And by the way, too, in Adams' defense, Seahawks fans hate him through no fault of his own to a degree. It's not his fault. They traded all those first-round picks for a box safety. Right, and then gave him none of that's on the Seahawks decision makers, John Snyder and Pete Carroll, who did that at the time. But
wait, before you go on, can I talk about the value/cost that Jamal Adams has been to teams throughout his career? Okay, so first of all, we're talking about a safety. Safety is a very devalued position, as we have seen throughout this offseason.
And a box one, right? And that's not going to come away with a ton of interceptions.
Exactly. He has 4 career interceptions. Since he was drafted the same year as Corey Davis, he has 4 career interceptions.
Who's now retired, for context.
Exactly. He was the 6th overall pick, so the Jets spent a ultra premium draft capital on him. Then the Seahawks traded multiple first-round picks for him. Again, we're talking about a safety. And then the Seahawks gave him the most lucrative contract in NFL history for a player at his position. That could be viewed as a positive. I mean, he was an all-pro caliber player at one point in his career. Now, the injuries have been the biggest drain on his ability. And we don't really even know what his abilities are, like how much of himself he can still be after all the injuries. Yep. But I will say the majority of the discourse surrounding the negativity with Jamal Adams isn't always about his play on the field. Now, you mentioned he's not great in coverage, and that is proven to be true throughout his career. But you don't need to ask him to do things that he's not good at doing. And if Dennard Wilson, who has all the familiarity that we're about to get into, knows how to put him in a position to succeed, I think he can become an impact player in Tennessee. But he's got to stay healthy. He has missed so many games. He has not played a full season since 2018. He only played 9 games last year. I mean, the injury concerns are real, but I think let's pause that. We'll get into Jamal Adams on the field and concerns surrounding him. Let's go through the connections. I'm turning it back to you.
So Titans defensive coordinator Dennard Wilson was his positions back coach, the defensive backs coach, from 2017 to 2019. So from his rookie year to 2019. Throughout that time frame, Adams racked up 273 total tackles, 25 PBUs, and yes, only 2 interceptions. Regardless of the lack of picks, He made back-to-back Pro Bowl appearances under Wilson's guidance in 2018 and 2019. So as a sophomore and as a third-year player. He's then traded to the Seahawks ahead of the 2020 season.
One sec. I just want to further comment on 2018 and 2019. Obviously, he made the Pro Bowl. We know that means he had a good year, but the Pro Bowl, whatever the sham of that, sometimes it is.
All pro in 2019 is what you're going to say, right?
That, and I'm looking at his PFF grades, and everyone wants to talk about how bad he is in coverage, right? And how poor he is as a coverage player and why he's got to be in the box and a blitzer and all that. I'm not necessarily buying that. If Dennard Wilson can regain some of Jamal Adams' form from 2018, 2019, his PFF coverage grades, 2018, 89.6. 2019, 87.5. In 2018, he allowed 24 catches on 48 targets. That's only 50% completion grade. 67.3 passer rating. 2019.
I'm not doing this with you.
20 completions on 33 targets. 79.1 passer rating. Now, he's had 3 seasons in his career where he's allowed a 120 passer rating or higher, but he's had 3 seasons where he allowed a 79 passer rating or lower into his coverage.
You're spewing out stats that are a lifetime ago and several injuries ago. So let me get back to this, okay? Because he's traded to Seattle prior to 2020. Wilson was still there in 2020, by the way, so don't get confused with the layover. He doesn't coach him in 2020 because he goes over to Seattle. 3rd straight Pro Bowl appearance in 2020. Good start to his career in Seattle. That's when injuries start rearing their head. 2021, he suffers the torn labrum that ends his campaign prematurely. It was about 12 or 13 games in, so he had played most of the year.
He played 12.
The torn labrum ends his season. 2022 is a disaster, season-ending injury in week 1. That's a quad tendon injury. Missed the whole year. This past year, 2023, concussion and knee injuries limits him to 9 games, about half the season now that we play a 17-game season. And no surprise, the Seahawks released him from his contract earlier this summer. I didn't look up the number. It doesn't matter. This isn't a Seahawks pod, but I imagine they cleared significant cap space when doing that based on the deal that they had signed him to. A lot of injuries, a lot of wear and tear. You certainly have to question how much of the 2017, 2018, 2019 Jamal Adams that you were just fanning over, how much of that is left in the player at this point. 29 years old, significant wear and tear, significant injuries. He already wasn't a very good player in coverage. I mean, that's got to be your concern, right? And there are some other injury concerns in this room I think you're going to get to soon. But certainly there's a big risk here. The Titans are taking the risk because of Dennard Wilson's familiarity with him.
Yeah, I think that is 100% accurate. And I didn't say those stats from like you said, a lifetime ago. To say that he can come here and be good in coverage. I just was more trying to dispel the notion that he's always been terrible in coverage. I think that the injuries probably sapped a lot of his ability to cover, especially man-to-man in space. There's a viral clip going around Twitter of Jake Ferguson absolutely abusing him. One-on-one man coverage. He's like barely in the same area code as where Jake Ferguson is when he catches the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. So like if you are leaving Jamal Adams one-on-one in coverage right now in 2024, I don't think that is where you're not going to have success doing that if you are relying on him. And, a Texans guy tweeted already, like, I can't wait to watch CJ Stroud target whoever Jamal Adams has in coverage on every single play. Like, this is a concern for sure. So should we transition to that right now, the concerns with Jamal Adams? And then we'll end on a positive note, the things he does well and how we hope Dennard Wilson can use him to his best abilities.
Yeah, I quickly want to add, to summarize the injuries, over the last 4 years, 34 games played, 33 missed. That is essentially an even split.
And the Titans safety room as a whole, Amani Hooker over the last 3 seasons has missed 17 of 51 games. Elijah Molden over the last 3 seasons has missed 18 of 51 games. And as you just said, Jamal Adams has missed 29 of 51 games. These are your 3 safeties. I mean, 2 of those guys are going to be on the field every single down. 3 of those guys are going to be on the field a good bit. And they don't stay healthy. So, like, to me, and we can get into the conspiracy theories later. Not really conspiracy theories, but I'm not convinced the Titans are done at safety. Like maybe Justin Simmons' asking price will come down a little bit as we get closer and closer to training camp. We're only a few weeks away now, a couple weeks away now. Maybe Justin Simmons is still an option. Maybe Jamal Adams' former teammate Quandre Diggs is still an option. Like because of the role that Jamal Adams has to play because of his limitations in coverage, I don't necessarily think the Titans are done. Now, they could be. They very well could be. I'm not saying they aren't done, but they very well could be done. But they also might not be done. They probably are. But if this deal is as low cost as we expect it to come in at, they do still have some money to play around if they wanted to, because a guy like Justin Simmons, even a guy like Quandre Diggs, is almost a totally opposite player of what Jamal Adams is. So we can get into that now. Jamal Adams is a guy who plays mostly in the box. He is a fantastic blitzer. He is really good in run defense and run support. He's essentially a linebacker. And we've been talking about who is going to be the Titans starting linebackers. I mean, would it be totally crazy to say that Kenneth Murray and Jamal Adams are your early down linebackers with Amani Hooker and Elijah Molden behind them? Or in a best case, amazing world, Amani Hooker and Justin Simmons behind them? Like, I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Where Jamal Adams is going to play is going to be huge to determining if he's going to be successful here or not. And he's got to be a guy that's close to the line of scrimmage because, again, the deficiencies in coverage are well noted. And yeah, I said he was good in 2018, 2019, but he hasn't been good since. His PFF coverage grade last season, when he only played 9 games, was 50.7. He allowed a 122 passer rating into his coverage, only forced 6 incompletions on 34 targets. You do not want this guy in coverage. You just don't.
Well, even if he's a linebacker, like you say, look, I'd be thrilled if they still went out and got Justin Simmons. I don't see that happening. Maybe I'm too old school, but when you sign a big-time player, like a big-time player from a reputation standpoint, like Jamal Adams, I'd be stunned if you go out and sign another veteran at that same position. I use air quotes because I don't know that he's really a safety, like you say, but even if he is a linebacker, I still got some questions, man. I mean, him, Kenneth Murray, Jack Gibbons, who can cover out of that trio? None of them, right? So
the Titans may be relying on, they have put together an elite trio of cornerbacks, right? But nobody else on the field can cover. I mean, Amani Hooker can cover for sure, but basically nobody else. Like, I'm even questionable about Elijah Molden's ability and to be sticky in coverage. Like,
can't play man. No, he's never been able to play man at all. He's slow and he's got short arms.
Exactly.
Short,
so I mean, maybe they're just saying like, look, these receivers are never going to be open against us. So if you can beat us with your tight ends and beat us with your running backs out of the backfield in the passing game, then have at it. But I know me personally, when I start making some FanDuel lineups this year, when the season starts, I'm putting Cole Kmet in my week 1 lineup. You better damn believe it.
I'm going to summarize like this, and maybe this even closes this out. I don't know. But if he's a safety, I'm worried, and I would have signed Justin Simmons instead. If he's a linebacker, I don't see the point because Jack Gibbons is a good 2-down run defender. And Kenneth Murray is athletic but can't cover. And Otis Reed, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he gives this defense that they didn't already have. I think that's my big concern. And if he's a safety, no doubt about it, I would have gone Justin Simmons.
Is he a lock to start over Elijah Molden?
If they view him as a safety, I'm going to say yes. Okay. I'm going to guess that's how they view it.
So real quick, let's close this on his strengths because Dennard Wilson has talked nonstop about how he wants to have an aggressive, attacking, physical defense. Jamal Adams, for all his faults, fits those descriptors to a T. He is extremely physical, he's extremely aggressive, and he knows how to attack. He forces turnovers. He has 10 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries in his career. Like we said, only 4 interceptions, but he does other things besides intercept the ball. And the Titans now have 2 guys in Kenneth Murray and Jamal Adams who are off-ball, off-the-line players whose best trait is blitzing. So you can use Kenneth Murray as the blitzer. You can use Jamal Adams as a blitzer. You can interchange them. Jamal Adams still holds the single season record for sacks in a season for a safety at 9.5. Now, he hasn't gotten a sack since that season, so that's obviously a concern. But he hasn't been on the field very much to get sacks since that season either. Also been turnover in personnel for the team that he's played for. So for coaching personnel, I mean. So there's a little bit of a question of whether he was always put in the right spot to succeed. I think Dennard Wilson knows Jamal Adams, obviously, and will know how to maximize his talents. I do think you're going to have plays this season where Jamal Adams is in coverage and you're wondering why, and it's a 30-yard completion over his head. That's going to happen a few times this year, but he's also going to get in the backfield. He's going to tackle running backs 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to sack quarterbacks. He's going to force fumbles, and he's going to be, as we heard in the very opening clip of this podcast, Mike Keith talking to him, leadership. veteran leadership. He has it. Now, the question is, what kind of leadership is it? Because there was the infamous moment a few years ago where a Jets reporter tweeted about him and he called out the guy's wife, like screened the dude's Twitter bio had him and his wife in his profile picture. And he like quote tweeted with a picture of the dude's wife talking about that she was ugly or something. Like, that's not the leadership you necessarily want in the locker room. But I will say Jeffrey Simmons seems hyped about it. He tweeted out, "Let him cook," which we're assuming alludes to Rand Carthon cooking. And he also tweeted out that, man, all these people want to be negative, or all these people want to come to all the games and hang out in the locker room and try to be buddy-buddy with us. But then they get on here and they pull a 360 and it's all nothing but negativity that they're tweeting about the team. So Jeffrey Simmons, fan of Jamal Adams. Does that mean every Titans fan should be a fan of Jamal Adams?
No, it doesn't. I think most NFL players are, honestly, a lot of them are misguided when it comes to this, right? Like, he probably thinks Jamal Adams is still a phenomenal player. I bet most of the NFL thinks that, right? And they probably haven't watched him play in a couple of years, or they probably haven't played against them, or he's been like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just NFL players usually have bad opinions on other NFL players. It's kind of strange how often that happens. I mean, look at the top 100 list every year. We hate it every single year, and players vote on it and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to go there, but I will curious to see the vision for him, what he adds to this defense, the role he'll play. I'm very, very skeptical about this. Again, Justin Simmons felt like the move to me. Don't know what the money was there. Maybe they'll shock me, like you said, and they'll still go get him because they see Adams as a linebacker. I highly doubt that's the case, but we'll see. And if they do, we'll record another emergency pod. Absolutely.
And I will say, just for a last bit of optimism, his PFF grade in 2022, 87.0. in the 15 snaps that he played.
That was the year he had the week one. I was going to say, you got me there for a second, but I thought you said 2023. I'm like, wait a second.
Last season in 9 games, 54.9 overall defense PFF grade. So yeah, I mean, there are definitely concerns here, and we will have them. But if you want to take anything positive away from this, Dennard Wilson has spent a lot of time with him, 3 seasons with him, and clearly wanted to bring him in. Clearly he has a vision for how to use Adams, or else they would have ponied up the money for Justin Simmons, or maybe gone with Quandre Diggs or somebody who's probably not asking for as much as Simmons. But again, we'll see what the money looks like, and if the Titans have space to make another move after this. If they pay him more than like $3 million or $5 million, if this is like a 1-year, $9 million contract, I'm gonna lose it. Like, we'll have to do another emergency pod if that's the case. I'm gonna go from trying to spin this positive to this is a bad move. But so you got 2 players, Jamal Adams and Kenneth Murray, who cannot cover, but they can blitz really well, and you hope the Titans just get to the quarterback so quickly, and that the receivers are pasting on, or the cornerbacks are pasting on the receivers so well, by the time the quarterback comes off those reads to look over the middle of the field where the players are going to be wide open, they're getting sacked by Murray and Adams. So we'll see how that plays out for the Titans defense. Regardless, they're going to have a good offense, right? Brian Callahan's going to lead them to a good offense, maybe even a better offense if the defense is allowing points, because then they're going to just keep scoring. So we'll see how it all plays out for this Titans defense. But that does it for this emergency pod. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Make sure you are subscribed to the Music City Audible YouTube channel. Give this video a like, thumbs up, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And thanks again also to Sinkers Beverages for sponsoring this episode. As I said at the top, you can head to the link in this podcast description or go to sinkersbeverages.com to join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. So check out sinkersbeverages.com today. All right, we'll be back soon. I got a video cooking up about Brian Callahan. We got an awesome Chris Johnson video on the channel up if you missed it, interviewing Chris Johnson, talking about Derrick Henry's departure, Will Levis expectations, Brian Callahan's new offense, his 2,000-yard season, the holding penalty that wrecked him of having the single-season rushing record, John Ross breaking his 40-yard dash record. It's an awesome interview. We encourage everyone to go check it out if you haven't. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back soon. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.